We want to get into all of it. Let's start with the most fundamental question. How did Moderna pull this off this quickly? Is there anything here that you've learned from overseeing it, from doing it, that could guide us on the road ahead?
Well, let me say that a number of things helped us be able to move this quickly. First, the company, which was started 10 years ago, had spent a vast amount of time and capital preparing a platform based on messenger RNA for lots of other applications, were vaccines, for therapeutics, and we were busy developing these in clinical trials when we got wind of this threat. Initially, we didn't know it was going to become a pandemic. Second, we had collaborated with colleagues at the NIH, with Dr. Fauci's group, for the last 2 years, already working on a vaccine for a related virus. That helped us get out of the gates very quickly. And then third, the heroic effort of the whole team at Moderna and of course, the partnerships we've had with multiple other parties. All of that gave us the ability to rise to the challenge. And we were fortunate that the technology was able to deliver what we've seen, which is a safe and effective vaccine.
So we've been through this cycle. Everyone watching has lived through it. The bad news of this terrible pandemic, the good news of progress, and then what sounds like more bad news of these variants. South Africa, one arriving in New York. Walk us through what you're doing now to try to catch up with possible new variants.
Well, indeed, from the beginning, we knew that, because of the evolved nature of this virus and all viruses, that this will become a competition, more so than a race, a competition between the virus being able to adapt and overcome our immune response and our ability to counteract it with more and more powerful immune responses, and broadly across the world. And so this response that we've seen with new strains emerging really tells us that we need to be prepared with more than just one vaccine potentially, or vaccine type, so that we can very quickly introduce boosters as needed to be able to counteract and teach our immune system how to be ready and on guard for a virus that may look enough different that our immune system does not as effectively neutralize it. So think about this as the virus has its own tricks, and we have technology within which, if we can move quickly enough and get out the appropriate response, we can potentially start cornering the sequences that can be obtained such that we can actually ultimately reduce and eventually defeat the virus.
If current trends continue, when should life be back to normal in the United States?
Well, Ari, that's a question we ask ourselves, given just how many team members we have across a number of companies. And that's really a very, very difficult thing to predict. What I can tell you is that I think with the vaccine approaches, with a much more organized effort, certainly in a number of countries, to use other protection methods, we're beginning to see the effects. Nobody can really rule out whether there will be continued ups and downs in this ultimate battle. So we have to be ready for that so we don't get discouraged. We also have to pay attention to what happens throughout the rest of the world, because ultimately we are connected. I mean, this is a virus ultimately that took advantage of our social nature. And so we need to definitely think about that as well. But I think certainly towards the latter part of this year, I think a number of things will have changed. And I'm hopeful that whatever normal looks like next will begin to reveal itself come this summer and into this fall.
So, translation, if there's no variant that takes over, by September, normal life in America?
I would say the beginning of normalcy, but I would fully expect that how we define normal will be quite different than the past. We have learned a number of things. You asked me earlier, I didn't answer, what can we do from the learnings we've gotten? We have to, as a society, be much more poised and ready with safeguards, attentive and surveilling for these threats. If the notion that we're just going to say that was just a bad dream, now let's get on with the life we knew before, I think that would be very irresponsible. So I think the beginning of normalcy and a new normalcy will set in, certainly as we start getting to the latter part of this year.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.